Patrick, a week in Indianapolis last week. How was your time?
It was busy. It was busy.
Yeah.
I remember the years where the Bears didn't have a draft pick until the fourth round, and you sat around going, what in the world are we going to do for a full week in Indianapolis? We did not have that problem this year with the Bears having the number 1 and the number 9 pick.
No, you did not. Let's talk about Caleb Williams. Sometimes I feel like the assessment or film study is more about his personality than it is actually his play on the field. You were there for the press conference in person at the Combine. What did you make of Caleb and how he handled it?
I thought he handled it great. This is a guy who said in the middle of the press conference how much he hated doing things like this. This is a guy who doesn't talk. I mean, they got their heads kicked in by UCLA in the season finale. He did not speak afterwards. That is a big deal. That is a big game on the West Coast, as you know. They go to a bowl game. He doesn't talk. He doesn't play in the bowl game. He's on the sideline, doesn't talk. He declares for the draft, puts out a statement on Instagram, does not talk. This is a guy who does not give a ton of interviews. So I thought he did about as well as he possibly could have. He came off to me as confident. He came off as smart, as he knows the message he's trying to deliver there. And he came off as somebody who wasn't intimidated by the moment. And that moment is no small thing. I mean, he was the most popular guy at the Combine. We have seen other people step up and not be able to nail it as well. I think back to Kyler Murray, the quarterback for the Cardinals, who, when he was at Oklahoma and coming out, had some similar, maybe not complaints about the system, but wanted to make sure that he was, letting the world know that he didn't love the whole draft complex. He came across far more negatively to me than Caleb did when Caleb explained why exactly he was going to do stuff or not do stuff.
What's your read on the medical situation? Is that slowing anything down, or is it somewhat of a non-story in your opinion?
I think it's slowing something down. I think that if you're the Bears and if you have a trade for Justin Fields lined up in the next 2 weeks and you haven't seen Caleb's medicals, you're taking a bit of a risk. This is a guy who by the end of last season at UCLA, he was really banged up. I mean, if you watched UCLA, he was not really himself. I don't think they have any concerns about any long-term issues. I don't think they're worried that he's unable to pass their physical or anything like that. But this does slow it down a little bit. If he had done the medicals at the Combine, I think the Bears would be more comfortable moving faster in terms of Justin. Now, I think this is a small way for Caleb and his team, which includes his father, to feel like they're enacting some sort of change in the draft process. I think that's important to them. I think that they want to do things different. And I think they want to, more importantly, be remembered as the people who did things differently. So in that regard, it doesn't bother me. I think it's a small thing. I think if it's a small thing that makes them feel like they have a little more control of the process, so be it.
Should what you just said is that a big thing?
Maybe. It depends. I mean, once he signs his contract, he is just another member of the NFLPA, man. And, there will be things that he's going to have to do, namely, talking to us twice a week. That wasn't always a requirement in college. I think the hope is that once he becomes part of a team that, he's going to be treated differently. He's the quarterback. That's the way this always goes. But I think the hope is that he'll assimilate pretty well into, joining the guys for a common goal. Of the people I've talked to, I don't know anybody who has a real concern about what he is like as a teammate or as a player. Those are two pretty important categories. Right. So I think they think everything will be okay once it gets settled there. But you need to remember, this guy's a millionaire. This guy's been in Dr. Pepper commercials for 2 years. I mean, he's, he knows all about Fansville. And, when you have money, there's stuff a lot of times in life, if you got money, you don't have to do stuff you don't want to do. I think that's different when you become folded into a team, though.
Yeah, if I'm Ryan Poles, I think my real concern is, well, number one, there's no concern about him being great. But if that's the case, it's that second contract because obviously the first pick, you're slotted. But that is down the road, and I'm assuming you'll take the best quarterback you can if that is down the road. The new league year begins on Wednesday. Is it going to be blatantly obvious that the Bears are building a roster that's planning on starting a rookie quarterback?
That's a good question because I think I hear that and I think, are they going to add offensive linemen? Now, I think they need a center. Trading for Ryan Bates, I don't think solves that. I know that there are people who do, who think that that $5 million you're paying him is starter money, and maybe, but the salary cap just went up in a big way, and you have two guards in Tevin Jenkins and Nate Davis, who ain't exactly known for playing all 17 games. I think having depth on the interior there is important, and I think Bates may be more of a depth piece than we think right now. That said, I think they can look at starting centers. I don't think there's a left tackle in free agency that would grab them, but I wouldn't be surprised if in the draft, if there was one available, that they went in that direction. Braxton Jones is pretty okay, but you can upgrade on him. Justin Fields is pretty okay, but you can upgrade on him. Like, this is what good teams do. Like, right. Good teams can trade a B- in for a B+, and that's okay. And that helps your depth. So maybe I look at them beefing up the defense even further. I think the defensive line is their biggest area of need. They need a defensive end to play opposite Montez Sweat. They need a defensive tackle who can start and take Justin Jones's place. They also need a safety instead of Eddie Jackson. Those are three starting positions on a unit that otherwise is really good. And I think if you sign the right sort of guy, that could raise the defense even more. Christian Wilkins is a defensive tackle for the Dolphins. He's the kind of I would keep an eye on him. I think he's the kind of guy that fits this defense really well. Now, having a really good defense will help a young quarterback. That's something that we even saw with Mitch Trubisky. I mean, how many times in 2018 did the Bears score because they got great field position or because they had an interception, in opposing territory, and all Mitch had to do was kind of complete two passes, hand the ball off, and run off the field with a smile on his face. So that will help too. I don't see them going too heavy on the offensive line, like I said, short of maybe looking at the center class.
Let's pivot to Justin Fields. From the conversation, the national conversation that I've been consuming, there seems to be a real surprise. There aren't more teams aggressively pursuing Justin Fields. Locally, it feels a little bit like we thought it would be. What's your read on the situation right now? How many teams are or are not interested in Fields?
I think the Bears, in a perfect world, would like to trade him as soon as possible. And I think I thought maybe there'd be a team that raced to the front of the line and said, maybe we'll give you a third, not a huge return, nothing great, but we can get this thing done right now. That hasn't really happened. And my understanding is it's because, a team like the Falcons, they want to see whether or not they can get Kirk Cousins. A team like the Vikings want to see whether or not they have Kirk Cousins around. You look at Baker Mayfield in Tampa, I think he'll stay there, but it hasn't happened as you and I are sitting here right now. There are other teams, the Raiders, the Seahawks, the Broncos, that are going to have maybe some moving parts there. And then you've got the Steelers. And, the Steelers, I think, would be a good fit for Russell Wilson, who's going to be a free agent at the start of the year. So I just rattled off 6 or 7 teams. I think that's the extent of who's going to be available or what teams are going to be in the market for him. And then you've got to wait and see how musical chairs works out. I mean, Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, Baker Mayfield, those guys I think are ahead of Justin in line. I don't know that makes them better than him. For Russell Wilson in particular, but Russell Wilson on a league minimum deal when you don't have to trade any draft picks to get him certainly sounds pretty attractive to me.
If things don't happen in the next couple of weeks, could Ryan Poles get somewhat desperate to say goodbye to Justin Fields and take whatever offer? I mean, perhaps drastically different of what we thought Fields may be worth.
Yeah, take a 4, or maybe take something that's conditional. You could take a pick next year that's conditional on how Justin plays, how many games he wins, that sort of stuff. I think that would probably be the next step I'd take if you can't get either a 2 or a high 3 for him. Yeah, I think he could get desperate. I look at it this way. He has not ruled out keeping both of them publicly. I think it would be shocking if both of them were on the roster together. I just think in the world we live in now, in an NIL world, in a world where every college quarterback who doesn't get his way, for the most part, has the option to just go somewhere else to get his way. I think competition is something that's not, I hate to say it, not healthy at the NFL level here. It should be healthy. It should be the way the world works. But if you bring in Caleb Williams, who has had control over which high school he goes to, which college he goes to, which college he leaves Oklahoma for, and is trying to have control now over who can see his X-rays, who can see him throw, where he throws. Now you bring him in and go, hey, this guy's really beloved. This Justin Fields guy, everybody in the locker room loves him. You and him are going to fight out for a job. I don't think that's the best way to get the most out of Caleb Williams. And like I said, I wish it were, but I don't think that's how the world works now.
Adam Schefter is a news breaker. He's also a news placer. He planted an interesting one yesterday where he said, and this was, what day is today? Today's Thursday. He said this yesterday, Wednesday, that there are those in the building that would like to keep Justin Fields. What did you make of him saying that?
Sounds like the Bears trying to drum up some interest in Justin Fields, to tell you the truth. And I mean, that's not surprising. I mean, it's surprising that he would put it out there in a tweet. But I mean, how many times have you heard DJ Moore talk about how great Justin Fields has been and question why anybody would ever want to replace him? How many times have you heard other teammates talk about him? How many times do you hear about Luke Getsy? I mean, Luke Getsy is out of a job and, had to go to Las Vegas because the offense he had with Justin didn't work. And then, you ask him about Justin. He talks about Justin's one of the best guys he's ever been around. I mean, it's not surprising that some people in the building, would want him around. I mean, they've been saying it, for a while now. The better question, I think, is if you want Justin to stick around, what's your end goal here? I mean, you may think he's a hard worker and a great guy, and he is, I mean, I tell people all the time. I mean, Justin makes this evaluation of him really easy on us because you don't sit there and question the want to. You don't question the amount of influence he has on his teammates. You don't question the leadership. Like that's great. That's just a no nonsense look at his play now. But it's been 3 years and it's not working. It's not working as much as they'd like it to. And, does it start to work because you keep him for one more year? I don't see why that would be the case.
There isn't a world where I could see Caleb Williams and Justin Fields sharing a quarterback room together. Is there a world where you could see them at some point be on the Bears roster together, meaning they can't move him and by draft day they take Caleb and Fields is still there?
Maybe on draft day. I don't think in training camp. I don't see that working. I just, like I said, I think you need a clear-cut starter. I mean, Justin himself, remember, Justin was drafted by the Bears who traded, 2 number ones for him. And, he had to sit there and watch Andy Dalton take starter snaps. You think that was best for Justin? I don't. Would Justin think that the number 1 overall pick coming in and taking, and Justin taking all of his starter snaps, that's probably not good for the franchise either,
Yeah, neither was Fields playing under Matt Nagy, but hopefully someone can remedy that situation. Love seeing Section 44 behind you. Shout out Qualcomm Stadium, RIP. Patrick, I appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Hey, anytime. Thank you.